Welcome to the Great British Crochet Off technical version, where I chat over the technical aspects of this week's episode of the Great British Crochet Off, a series where I watch an episode of the Great British Bake Off and then crochet something that inspires me from it. For this week, it was bread week and they made filled loaves, so I made this loaf of a fridge that's filled with oh my gosh, they're literally falling out, all sorts of little baking grocery ingredients. If you missed this week's episode, make sure you watch it here, and let's go back in time and see how we got here. So this week was bread week, and one of the challenges was a filled bread loaf, and immediately I was like, I want to do something with that. And I was thinking, like, what can I fill like a crocheted bread loaf with? And then I was thinking about last week's challenge where I did the like bake off set and how I really want to make a fridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, on the one side it looks like a little loaf of bread, but then when you could flip it over and flip it up, it's like a little refrigerator. It'll be like an openable refrigerator, and maybe if I have time I can make some like little mini food to go inside, and so it'll be filled with things. So we're going to start with the most basic structure of it. We're going to start with the outside of it, the outside shell. It's gonna look like bread. We're gonna do an inside shell that's white, and then we're gonna do the door, and it's gonna look like the bake-off fridge door. So let's start with those things. So here is the outside shell of our bread loaf fridge, and in case you're wondering, this is around 6.5 by 7.5 inches. What I did was I crocheted like, what is this? Like 1.5 inches, maybe? Yeah, about 1.5 inches. And then I did a row on the back so I could have a little hinge here, kept going up, did another row on the back. So I had another hinge here, and I crocheted these onto the side. So basically we have like a little box. So these are just pinned for now, but the idea is that I could sew up these corners, and then I have like the outside shell of the fridge. And this side I'll put some like stripes on so it looks like slashes in the bread. So what I'm going to do now is make the inside shell of the fridge just about the same way, but just making it a tiny bit smaller, just like a row of crochet on each side smaller so it fits inside of it. So I made the interior little box of the refrigerator, and what I ended up doing was I made this large rectangle just a little bit smaller so it fits inside, but then I made the like lips of it a little bit longer. The idea being that I can like put a little bit of quilt batting in here or a little bit of stuffing in here, and then sew this up and have this kind of fit together like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is sew in the corners and weave in the ends, because this is a lot of chaos for me right now. And then after that, I'm going to actually make my shelving for the fridge. Okay, so I made my shelving. So this is just some crochet on the back loop, 2 rows, and then crochet on the back loop, and then matching them out. So I have like a little padded shelf, and this is going to be for the freezer space. And then I did one that will basically be flat, and this is for like the shelf in the fridge. And then right now I'm working on little like crisper drawers. So I basically did them the same way that I did these boxes, where I just did like a rectangle with rectangles on it, and now I'm sewing them up. And I made this handle out of half double crochet, so that'll be like the little handle of the crisper box. So I finished sewing all this up, and now I'm working on the door. So this will be the front of the bottom, and this will be the front of the top. So I'm going to sew up these corners. They're nice little like boxes. And then I made this for the insert. So I'm going to sew up the corners, and then I'm going to put some stuffing in there. And then I'm going to sew this in, but I'm going to sew it in so that this is like inset. It's going to make sense when I do it. But basically I want this door to be like, have a little bit of a pocket to it. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense now. I sewed this around the edge, and then I did a line. You can barely see it. I did a line inside here. So there's like a divot. It goes inward. And then I put on a little handle with some silver yarn that I have. And that's going to be the bottom door. And oh my God, guys, this is looking so good. So I just need to do this again, only this one I put the little logo in for the refrigerator. And then I'll have to put a handle on this one as well. So assembly is all finished. All the ends from the assembly are woven in. I want to add a little shelf here and a little shelf here that can like fold into it. But for now, what I'm also going to work on is making all the little mini food. So like this is a little mini bag of flour, and this is going to be like a little bag of frozen cherries. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of little food that you would find in like a baker's kitchen and fill up all the shelves and drawers. And I think that's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be very detail-y, but I think it's gonna be really fun. So here it is all made up with all the different little food items. And there's really not too much to tell about how I made all of these. It's just a lot of boxes that I decorated in a cute way. Like that's just a little box with embroidery thread. It's supposed to look like a domino sugar box or a sugar bag, you know. The flour, I just put like a little thing, a little shaft of wheat on. This is just like a little crochet. It's supposed to look like a bag of nuts. I recognize that looks like a chicken drumstick. I'm okay with that. You know, not everything is success. But this is just like a little bag. For the things that have removable pieces, like the butter and the chocolate, this is just a piece of that embroidery carding that I use for everything, just dolled up a little bit. And then I just made a little sleeve for that and a little box for the butter. Once again, these are just some French knots, and then I did a little embroidery thread to give them a stem, and it's just a little sack that I filled up with loose ends of things. Here's our tiny little pastry case that the filling for the pies go in. The filling for the pies really is my favorite thing about this. So they're just a little crocheted circle. This, I just glued a little round of scrap white yarn, and that's our dollop of whipped cream, and I just fold it over itself and tuck it in there, and then you have your thing of berries, and it goes in the crisper. And I just glued on scraps of the tan yarn to make the lattice on the top of this one. The vanilla is probably the worst one, to be honest. It's probably worse than the bag of nuts, but I liked the idea of having a little bottle of vanilla. And I didn't really, I mean, without making it a huge bottle of vanilla, I didn't really know how to add too many more details. I'm good with it. Little bottle of milk, and then I just heavily glued on this top piece of yarn, and it's just a circle. I worked up and I tapered it. I did some decreases once I got to around here, just to give it that like tapered bottle effect. And the eggs are one that you just can't look too close at because they are clearly just beads in hot glue. But I mean, this is a toy for children. Like they're not going to be judging that the eggs look like beads. They're good with me. They're proud of me. I genuinely had like 15 to 20 more ideas of things I could make for this fridge. So I just tried to stick with the basics and then add like an extra actual baked item or two. So I mean, really, you could go anywhere with this. And maybe one day I'll make more items for the fridge. I could probably cram some more things in here or like add a little panel here to be another drawer. But yeah, that's our project for this week. I hope you guys like it, and I'll see you guys again soon.